I have been waiting for this episode legitimately for 3 years. I have a question that I've been wanting to ask. We're going to dive in. We're going to unpack how to take away a kid's phone if you made the mistake of doing that. And I've wanted to ask this to only one person in the world. Dr. Kathy Koch is here.
Amazing.
First, thank you so much for being here.
For sure. Glad to be here.
You drove in 5 hours from Fort Worth to Shineroll, Texas, in the studio here. And last night we had a really cool event. You came and spoke. It was a very intimate group and spoke about resilience and gender confidence. Gender confidence. The language you use really matters. But it was a really good conversation last night. Everyone walked away with some very meaningful takeaways. But really, I'm excited that you're here today. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
It is now time. We have to unpack. This is literally, I've wanted to have this conversation with you for 3 years.
Amazing.
3 years.
I'm fearful that I might disappoint you.
No. It really is. And the reason why is for you in particular, the amount of grace that you bring to the conversation, the amount of wisdom you bring, it is actually the hardest question that I have no idea how to answer. And out of everyone in the world I can think of, you have the best ability to chew on this. And I think all of these challenges we iterate on and we grow on and we experiment and we learn. But I really want to unpack the challenge of, hey, I'm a parent. I already gave my kid a phone. They screwed up. It screwed me up. Things are broken. I need to fix this. And I know if I take away my kid's iPad, they're going to become an iMad kid. Like, it's going to be red beet face, not a good situation. And I feel somewhat trapped. What do I do as a parent to undo that kind of moment where and I want to be crass with this, where my kid has lost their smartphone virginity.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, because it's one of those things, like once you go in, it's very hard to pull back something that they felt entitled to. So thoughts here.
I'm really glad we're talking about it. I do get the question quite often, and I do feel that it's really hard. So let me ramble, and feel free to stop and interact with me at any point, Chris. First of all, when you give children an iPad or a phone, it is yours. It is their loan. They're borrowing it.
Yes.
You never say, here's your phone.
Set the expectation. Day one, this is my phone that you can use.
Yes. I'm paying for it.
Yes.
I've chosen it. And I trust that you're ready for it. So that's first and foremost. You don't give them a phone.
Well, and let's dive into that first, around the right age, the right way to do it. And I'll throw this out there for everyone listening. We have co-authored, Dr. Kathy and I have co-authored a cell phone contract for teens. And it's literally, I've read 30 of these. It's the best one. I'm just bragging here.
I love it.
When you put our two heads together, and it actually very practically walks through that moment when you do give a kid a phone. So let's unpack that first. To kind of set the preface for here's how you're supposed to do it.
Okay, how do you choose, and then what do you do if it doesn't work out well?
What is the right way?
So I would say this first. It's need versus want. They don't get a phone when they want a phone. Just like they don't get their own bedroom when they want their own bedroom. They don't get every Oreo cookie when they want every Oreo cookie. You've never parented that way. Why would you do it now?
Kids will want what's bad for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're drawn to what others have. We're drawn to what we think we're curious about, et cetera. So do they need a phone? And what do they need on their phone would be the second question. So as an example, if they are going to babysit and there's no landline, they need a phone. But they don't need their own phone. They can borrow your phone. Or I'm a huge fan of a sibling phone.
Or a family phone.
Where you buy one phone for the 3 siblings. They get to sign it out, borrow it for the evening, first come, first serve, turn it back into the charging station within 15 minutes of walking in the door. And if they don't, they lose privilege next time. All right? So if your son is going to go to a party and he feels most secure to have a phone in his pocket, even though he could ask the host of the party to borrow the phone, that is awkward. So a sibling phone, and that teaches them responsibility, dependability. If they're selfish with it, are they honest, and do they have integrity with the way that they use it? And so that would train you as a parent to believe whether or not when they're 15, 16, 17, you could purchase a phone to loan to them individually. So do they need it or do they want it? So even at the dinner table, no phone.
Yes.
Maybe mom's phone is on vibrate because she's the emergency number, and maybe that's essential. All the other phones are either on vibrate or airplane mode, or they're in another room because we're going to be focused on our family, because this is why the family is a family. We're not even going to have TV on because in silence, someone will talk. And these are captured moments to get to know each other, which is where values are distributed and wisdom is shared. But let's say, Chris, that you had an opportunity for a potential last minute business trip. Maybe you were going to send somebody else in your company, but they weren't feeling well that day. And you might get a phone call in the evening that you're going to have to go instead. Then you get to have your phone on at the dinner table.
Yeah.
You might have a son who's going to have a chance for a next door neighbor babysitting job because the woman needs to run an errand, doesn't want to take the kids. So your son gets to keep his phone on at the dinner table. That's a need-based use. We train them in that from the very beginning for everything, not just a phone, but even the way other parts of life work. So I would look at need versus want. Then I would look at character maturity.
Mhm.
All right. And let me start with a driving example. Somebody is 16 years old and they take the driver's test and they legally pass it and they can drive. Chris, if they're arrogant, irresponsible, aggressive, impulsive, they don't drive. I'm not putting that kid behind the wheel of any car, much less my car.
Or if they fail the driving test, they don't drive.
Yeah, for sure. But if they pass
Yeah.
and they legally could drive
Yeah.
and they complain, but I'm 16, I get to drive. No,
Yeah.
you're 16, you're legally able, but you don't get to because you're behaving like you're 13. So we are huge fans of a concept of a character age. Now with the phone, you and I both know, and our listeners know, if they think about it, that a phone will cause us to become more entitled, where we want when we want it now. A phone will often cause us to become more self-centered and selfish because it's all about me. If your children are already entitled and selfish before the phone, and you give them a phone, you're just going to ramp up that negative behavior. So why would we do that? So we say to our children, you're not of the right character. Yeah, but my sister got a phone when she was this age.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. She was character age, chronological age matched. Or you actually say, she's the firstborn. She's the guinea pig. We never should have allowed it.
We made the mistake.
We made the mistake. And in fact, I recommended the parents say to the guinea pig kid, again, if I need to take back the phone because of behavior issues, I didn't know what I was doing when I gave you my phone to use. You're not a bad kid and we're not bad parents.
Yeah.
We just didn't know what we're doing. But now that we've seen the effect the phone has had on you, we're taking it back. But I want my phone. Yeah, we know that. You become addicted. We get that. We understand how it works. But all the complaining in the world won't change that. Well, then how do I get the phone back? When your character matures and you demonstrate that you can handle the responsibility.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. So need and want, character age, not chronological age. And then we take it back when they demonstrate that they weren't capable of using it. And we can expand on that.
So I wanna understand character age. I love the concept. We've talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
What do you do if a kid doesn't age into character and yet the need becomes overwhelming? You get an 18-year-old who still doesn't have the character and is narcissistic or whatever and just not quite trustworthy with the device, but yet life demands it.
Yeah, that's a fair question, because my recommendation is normally that while they're in your home, they should have their first opportunity to use a phone.
Yeah.
So that before they launch into post-high school education or career or military, they've had experience under the safety of your
I was going to
nest.
say, when you do that, no matter what, even if they're not quite ready for it, at least you can walk them through the scenarios and the
Right.
situation. You're there with them, and so
Right.
it's better to let them play with fire under your guidance.
Yes, no, that's very true.
Than on their own.
But again, so then we check up on them, every night, and we take their phone and we look at it. And if they complain, then they lose the phone privilege for X number of days if you wanted to have that kind of a consequence. But you know what? The reason we're looking at your phone is we love you so much. We can't allow this to raise you. There's too much evil in the world that you have access to with the phone. And our love for you compels us to behave this way. And let me remind you, Jonathan, we've always behaved that way. We've always looked in on you after we've put you to sleep. We've always double-checked your backpack. We've always called the neighbor to see if you were obedient at the neighbor's house. This is no different. Does it feel to you like it's invasive? Maybe because the phone is invasive, and we're not going to let it raise you. We're going to raise you.
Well, and I will say a lot of those things have become culturally acceptable check-ins versus the phone. For some weird reason, it's not culturally norm. It should be.
Yes.
But even Google themselves, I'll tell you what, we had a tussle, a real life tussle with Google over whether parents should be able to see everything that's going on in the device. We had mysterious We got our app booted from the Play Store. We're talking like policy war here.
Yeah.
But the assumptions of the world is like, hey, your phone has a passcode on it and it's Face ID. And you can even have apps on your iPhone that are hidden that you can't even get into with a passcode. You have to have Face ID. Your face has to be the thing to unlock this thing. Those are all the things that are built in. And so there's an assumption of privacy for everybody. And so we're fighting a cultural norm that is embedded that kids feel entitled to, because that's what big tech tells them. And that's what big tech builds for. So.
Oh, it's so interesting. Yeah. And here, let me say this too, that this is going to work best when parents follow the same policies. When I speak to parents and educators about technology, I say, don't leave here and use the pronoun you. You have to make some changes. No, we're going to leave here and we're going to say we are going to make some changes. Yeah. So if you've chosen, for instance, that no phone is on at the dinner table, then you make sure yours isn't on either. Mm-hmm. If you make a policy about no tech in the bedroom, which is absolutely essential. When we look at sleep deprivation, we look at bullying, we look at pornography, we look at gaming, aggressive, age-inappropriate games. We look at all of the hidden apps that they go to, if you will. They cannot have devices in their rooms. I don't think they should have a TV in their room. Yeah. And I don't think they should have a laptop in their room. They can do their homework in a central station. Those things are important. So that means that we don't have tech in our rooms. Yeah. Do we have a TV in our bedrooms? And do we have we have to have, they'll say, I have to have my phone at night because that's my alarm clock. Buy them an alarm clock. Yeah. It's not hard to
$20.
do. $20. Get them a dictionary if they tell you that their phone is their dictionary. Yeah. Get them a Bible because they don't need the phone to have the Bible app.
Buy them a camera.
Yeah, exactly. And that slow school is coming back.
Yes.
Just like people are buying long play records now, which is fascinating to me. Some of us are backing away and backing up. So I think, in fact, I would go on record to say when I talk with parents about making changes, they push back because they don't want to make changes.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, but it's your children. And then they realize, okay, and then they'll sacrifice and they'll do it. So the family makes an agreement. And the thing is, Chris, that taking back a phone that you've loaned a kid because they've misbehaved, but you're not bad, we're not bad, this is just what's happened. We didn't know anybody the phone. It's just
a consequence.
It is a consequence.
You're speeding on the highway, here's a ticket. Like,
you lose car privileges.
Yeah, you're not getting the death sentence or going to jail for the rest of your life. It's like, here's the consequence.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Then I think what I recommend we do, Chris, is put alternatives visible in our home. We're so addicted to the adrenaline drop and the dopamine and the winning of the game and having a phone in our hand and the self-centered looking down. Look, I'm amazing. I have all these messages. When they walk in, what if you had a soccer ball and a Sudoku book and a checkerboard game and a jigsaw puzzle, and you had a box of brownies and the mix out on the counter, and we walk in from school, church, work, the playground, and go, oh, Mom, do you want to make brownies? Or Dad, you want to play checkers? Or Dad, you were going to teach me chess. Is tonight a good night? But when we put everything in our game closets and we put away everything because it's pristine and clean, then we forget what we have. And Chris, I was just in your home. If I'm in somebody's home and they have children, there should be evidence children live there.
We cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, your home was beautiful. Your home was beautiful. And I just I want to see a half-eaten bagel on the counter and a sippy cup on the floor. I want to see that. Because if it doesn't feel like it's the kid's home, they don't want to live there. Yeah. So again, let's make changes that we know are also wise to make, not just because it's good for the kids, but it's actually good for us to also have more time away from our screens.
Consistent tech policies across the board for the family. I'm thinking about the messy home bit. Because, parents do want decluttered. But there's some comment, I think it was Einstein said something like, if I ever see a clean desk, it's a sign of an empty mind.
Right.
It's the same concept of hey, a house that has brownie mix and, and games and clutteredness, but it's the idea of character formation. That's actually a well-lived home.
It is.
That's the point.
It doesn't have to be messy and it doesn't have to be all-consuming, but evidence that there's joy here, or again, giving them those alternatives. And I want to say for the people who aren't aware of it, Chris, that as you know, one of the lies that I teach in my book, Screens and Teens, is that I'm the center of my own universe. And we begin to believe that. We post on social media, we watch the effect of the reel, the like factor. We take pictures and we can autocorrect them and Photoshop out somebody who we want to pretend wasn't there, and then we post it for the world to see, and we can create our own little perfect world. That's another reason to get them off the phone. Yeah. It's not just that they think everything is about them and easy and entertaining and available and efficient and all those things. But it can teach them one of the biggest lies which is that they're the center. Look at all the people who are paying attention to me, and look how cute I look in this outfit.
Yeah.
But that's not going to serve them well in this life. We want them to believe that they have talent and ability and passion so that they can serve and leave the world a better place. And it can't always be about them. Take away the phone carefully, and they earn it back with the character shift and our training and our teaching and our role modeling. Otherwise, their whole world is going to go south.
Yeah. I mean, and if you think about, I mean, just building on what you're saying here, if you think about what is social media in its essence, it is one giant algorithm, and the whole thing is pointing to you.
Yeah.
Like, it is my own world.
Yeah.
I can adjust every dial setting, people I want to interact with. I can subscribe and do this and everything. And the algorithm is geared for my persona. I mean, it's a me world.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not actually about a you world, you know, and it's hard. Even the you-ness it's kind of an excuse. It's actually you so that I'm not guilty kind of thing. And it's about me. So
social media is the wrong label. Like, I'm listening to thinking we should call it me media. You know,
I'm going to start calling it
I just thought of that as you were speaking.
Me media.
Because you're right.
Yeah.
It's all about me being noticed and me being on,
it's our
on
own micro
display.
worlds. We're mini gods.
And so there are so many reasons to take away the phone because it does destroy character and it does destroy attitude far too often. So I would also say, and I know you'll agree, that when you believe children do need a phone for work, some of them do need a phone for work. And for you to take the text messages from the supervisor, then you have to remember to share it with the kid, and that might become awkward. I'm very concerned about the number of youth pastors or soccer coaches who make the kids receive text updates when the parent doesn't want them to have a phone. Now the kid feels like they have to have a phone to play for that soccer coach. You know, that's a problem. But let me say this. If you believe that your child is ready for a phone, or there's a legitimate need for them to have a phone, they don't need me media on the phone.
Yeah.
They don't need the World Wide Web. They don't need the App Store. If the phone became the communication device that it was designed to be, and maybe it has a camera and a calendar and a calculator, then I have fewer issues with it. It's when it becomes the all-consuming toy that it becomes something that I think can destroy character.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between a tool and a toy.
Yep.
And they're commingled right now.
Yeah.
We've spent our life parsing those two things apart.
Yeah.
So give me really practical numbers for people, just to like simplify, condense. What are the ranges of ages that you see, hey, need starts to enter at this age potentially? You gave a couple scenarios, which are good, but like, hey, kids start getting their first job. And then on the tail end, hey, under your purview, give a range of what you would say is a healthy start. Maybe things ramp up, you give more trust, more autonomy. What does that look like?
It's a fair question. The parents that I've spoken with, I would say 14 to 15 would be potentially the first need. Maybe they're left alone more. Maybe they are having a job. Maybe there are social networks that they're a part of, word texting, and a group thread, because you don't want them to feel isolated and out of touch.
Yes.
All the soccer boys are having this text, and your son isn't on it. He can be made to feel out of it when he goes back to school or the next soccer practice. So maybe the 13, 14, 15-year-old range. And then certainly before they leave the home, if they're going to launch at the age of 18 and go off to trade or college or career, then 6 months prior to that, they get to borrow your phone to learn the ethics and the integrity of phone use. And maybe you're not sure about their character, then that means that they're watched even more closely than you would have watched a sibling at that age. Yeah. Those are potential ideas. What if we, Chris, I think one of the things to consider is, what if we never gave a 2-year-old an old iPad? Like, part of the problem is that we've got 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids addicted to the control. They think that they're their own authority, one of my lies, because they're 4 and they know how to swipe and they know how to find the game. And it's an app or it's a device that you've purchased for them, or it's an old device that you loaned to them, but they're addicted. Yeah. When they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, we've got schools using devices already rather than paper textbooks, which I could talk to you for an hour about the problem with that.
We're on the same boat here.
So
I spoke at a school board meeting just recently, like saying they came to us for funding, to talk about funding iPads for second graders. And not only did I say no, I showed up at the school board meeting and I said, this is a terrible idea. It was a heck no.
It's a really sad thing. Yeah. There's evidence that we don't read as well. remember, we don't read as well, comprehend as well, remember as long, or apply as accurately information we've read on a screen. And you and I can read. Imagine children learning to read and write using devices. It's also a terrible idea to take notes on a device because you can type verbatim and not personalize and paraphrase and process. So the first universities in America on the East Coast that allowed devices into the classroom are the first ones to kick them out.
Yeah.
So Harvard, as an example, they no longer allow devices in the classroom because they learned the hard way that the kids were very superficial. They were multitasking. They were going to social media in the middle of a biology lecture. It was terrible.
Even if they weren't doing that, just the challenge of having to transcribe notes by hand actually makes it
it's good for the brain.
Yeah.
So there are so many reasons that it's not a good idea. And I think that if parents could stand up to their children and say, you don't need the device. There's a pad of paper right there. You can take notes on that. Or again, we're going to have enough board games and jigsaw puzzles and fun times outside. Because I really do think that if our young children didn't begin to understand the lure of technology, they wouldn't be demanding a phone at the age of 11, 12, and 13. Mm-hmm. So if we keep them off of devices as long as possible in general, I think it's easier then for a parent to delay the use of the phone until they actually need the phone. And again, I would say they don't necessarily need a smartphone. They maybe need what some people call the dumb phone, which is a texting and a calling device for communication.
Yeah. Well, all right. So then that leads me to the next sticky question. I believe you. I want to have my kid wait until they're 15 years old, and they are going to be the weirdest, isolated. Like, this is another excuse, but I want you to unpack it because legitimately the world is giving kids phones at 8 and 10 and 12 and younger. But like, I did a poll, like most 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's not so how do you fight that with courage as a parent and like let your kid not be too anomalous in the world, in this hyper-connected world we're in? So
I love the way you worded that. I'm going to give you best practice, and I know not everyone's going to like what I'm about to say, but you stand up for yourself and to your children politely and carefully, and you communicate. You know, they say, well, everybody has one. Well, that's not true because you don't have one, you know. So, and, you know, maybe they'll laugh.
They will laugh.
No, but it's true. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. At Celebrate Kids, we don't lie to kids. We don't manipulate kids. We tell the truth. So the truth is that we parent you. We're not parenting anybody else. We're not parenting your cousins. We're not parenting the neighbors. We're not parenting any other kid in the 6th grade class at your school. We're parenting you. And you matter greatly to us. And we are responsible for stewarding your heart and your brain, your soul and your spirit. And the answer is no. And if you can't receive the no and you continue to fight back on us, it'll be later before you receive the phone. Like, and that would be a true statement, because to fight back and to not be obedient is a sign of a character that's immature. So now, and here's the thing, Chris, to everybody who's listening, some of us need to apologize to our kids. Some of us need to say, man, I was weak. I am so sorry. I wasn't sure about giving you the phone. I gave you one of my phones. I saw within a week that you stayed in your bedroom. You ignored your siblings. I saw that you became argumentative, and that hadn't been your character. I should have taken it back right then and there.
You might feel happy, but the joy is gone. The peace is gone.
Bingo. So I'm disappointed in myself. Now I'm asking for it back. Or now I'm telling you. The other thing that I've had parents do is take certain apps off of phones. So a true example would be a mom and a dad who saw that a son had continued to be aggressive towards sisters after having played a game. So 20 minutes later, the kid is still aggressive toward the sisters. Mm-hmm. And the dad went into the phone, took off the app, took off the game, and said, we can't allow you to play that game anymore because your relationship with your sisters matters more than whether or not you win or lose that game. No, Daddy, no. No, it's already been done because we're the parents. And we get to parent you, and we get to make the choices. And we have a few short years in which we can steward your growth. And this is the decision we've made. You can't argue it back. You can't complain it back. You can't bribe me. It'll be your character. and it's rare that I would give you that game back. And maybe you can find another game that has similar skill sets, a similar pace, but isn't an aggressive, violent game. Make sense?
Yeah. And what I'm hearing in this is just having courage, leaning into your parental authority and responsibility. Not even just like, you can do this. It's like, you need to do this. You have to do this.
Yeah.
You must. That's the right word.
Yeah.
And owning it and defining that for your kids as well. Like, this is my authority, this is my responsibility. And that may be very weird for a lot of people, like especially in child-led households where they've kind of like they've called the shots. This one is going to be another breakthrough difficult moment, probably.
Difficult week, right? Difficult moment.
Month.
I mean,
you name it.
It could
the
be
kids stomping around. And,
and again, I would say what I've said in other episodes with you is that it's not being their friend that should matter the most to you.
Yeah,
it's parenting strong for their quality of life and that they would live on purpose with joy. So we know that bringing this up is going to cause a complaining, argumentative separation for a while. But then we work to get them out of the bedroom and we work for them to understand. We get off of our phone. We go for walks, we go to the zoo, we go to the park, we go to grandma's, we serve our neighbor, we learn how to do a jigsaw puzzle with 500 pieces. We don't let them isolate in their room. We love them well in the quiet. If you don't substitute something for all the time they were spending alone on their device, you're going to be in trouble even more so. But this, in Chris, you've never allowed I would pray that you've never allowed your kids to do whatever they want. You know, the example, you've never let them eat a bag of Oreo cookies, the whole thing. I don't think if you came home from the store with 36 Oreos that you allowed your 4-year-old or your 10-year-old to sit there and eat them all.
I might have done that when I was a kid, and it was a bad moment.
Yeah, come on. Let's be honest about that.
But it was an accident. It wasn't an intentional thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, parents have always said no.
Yes.
Parents have had bedtimes. Parents have had a limit on how many burgers you can have off the grill.
Yeah.
Parents have decided for a lot of kids who you get to play with and what houses you get to go to.
Yeah.
The reason this is hard is because we've allowed it to be hard. And we see the addiction, which is not their fault. And this is what we say to kids. It's not your fault. In fact, Chris, I'm going to say something that, again, to God be the glory that I get to do what I do at Celebrate Kids. I get to teach thousands of 16 to 23-year-olds at Summit Ministries every summer, Impact 360, but we love Summit Ministries. And when I speak to those young people, I teach about tech to these 16 to 23-year-olds. And I say to them, it's not your fault. And then I say, I would be like you if I was your age. Mm-hmm. And they'll sometimes say, wait, say that again. And I'll say, I would be like you if I was your age. The fact that you behave entitled, you behave arrogant, you're not a bad kid. Your technology is changing your belief system and therefore your behaviors and your attitudes. I would be like you. This is why they listen to me. I've had them say, I'll listen to you because you understand that we're not bad people. Yeah. We've been manipulated by the algorithms and by the system, by the speed, by the happiness, by the efficiency. And I stand up there and I'm, to God be the glory, I'm able to say, hey, you're worth more. That's the other thing, Chris. If kids don't think they're worth more, they're not going to want to change. But I love you so much, I can't let this continue. That's what I teach people to say. We love you so much. Like for you and your wife to say to a kid, we love you so much, we have to take back our phone because we don't like what it's doing to you. How do you know it's the phone? Well, we've watched and we've taken, we have recorded what we've seen happen. And your self-centered, aggressive, argumentative self shows up after you're isolated with your texting, your social media scrolling, and your media scrolling.
Me media.
And the anger comes from gaming, and we don't like that kid.
Yeah.
And I don't think you like that kid either. And we're going to enter into this. Why? Because we are parents and we get to. Yeah. I think we stand up for ourselves and we stand up for our kids and we let them be angry. We let them be angry. We know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Chris, you've got to be strong enough to not give it back to them 3 days later when they complain. They don't get it back.
Yeah. Not
until there's a use for it or their character has shifted. It's so important. And you got to make sure they haven't found a way on an app or on a different device. You got to be really, because you can text on an iPad, you can game. You just got to be really careful.
Yeah. I'm in the business of closing loopholes.
Yeah,
there's a million.
Get them out of the bedroom. Yeah, live in the living room.
Yeah. The language you're using right now, it sounds funny. It sounds like a Celebrate recovery conversation. I'm serious. It's like there's this addiction component.
Yeah.
But it really is. It's the socially acceptable addiction of today's time. And there are a very few number of parents that have the courage, like legitimately, if anyone listening right now says, you know what, my kid's 16 or 15 and I really messed this up and I did it, I want to know about it. First of all, just like, let us know, please. But we're the ones who are dealing with that head on and actually classifying it properly. if that makes sense, and like handling it with the right amount of severity. And generally speaking, there were things 30 years ago that were socially acceptable that now we know are terrible.
Yes.
But
Yes. Well,
the world evolves. We have seatbelt laws now that didn't exist back in the day.
Yeah, totally.
Just
I've often thought about, when they removed cigarette smoking from movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Right? What if we, in our movies and TV shows, removed all phones?
Yeah.
Like, because you can watch any show and everybody's on their phone. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks socially acceptable. You're
don't
exactly right.
it, at least.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that makes me really sad is to go to a restaurant and to look at people sitting together all on their phones, eyes down.
Fubbing.
Yeah. And they're not interacting, which is why we don't know who we are. We don't know who others are. And we separate. And again, we have family dysfunction that's, through the roof in a lot of cases. And those are choices we make, Chris. We can put our phones down. I've written in this book, and others have as well, you put all the phones in the center of the table.
Yeah.
You make it just stack, and whoever touches them first pays the bill. But you
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, and then you have a conversation.
Yeah.
So then we have to teach the art of conversation.
Oh, sure.
Which is another thing we do at Celebrate Kids.
Yeah.
How to ask better questions at the end of the day so that your kid wants to talk to you.
I'm curious about that. I'll have to. Which book is that one in? Is it
Start with the Heart?
Okay.
Start with the Heart talks about conversations and asking better questions.
Okay. So if I take away the phone and now I want to fill it with better stuff, or if I haven't done it yet, start with the heart. That's the question. Family question, fabric, building relationship there.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to dive into that.
That's cool.
Okay. So I'm trying to summarize here. Hey, generally speaking, need, not want, drives whether you give a kid a phone.
Right.
Character age is the other filter. So there's two major filters here, whether you give a kid a device. If you've messed up, lean into the fact that you love your kids, repent yourself, own it, come to them in love and say, hey, I messed up. This is destroying you in a way that I don't like. I love you enough to step in and provide this boundary. It's not a negotiation. This is what we're going to do. Come in with confidence and boldness as a parent, leaning into that responsibility. Do it. And then see how their character responds and reacts.
That's a great summary with one change, if you don't mind.
Yes, add to it here.
I wouldn't say I messed up.
Okay.
Because at the time that you gave them a phone to use, you didn't know what you were doing.
Give yourself grace.
Give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody after this show, or again, if it's your fourth kid and you realize what's happened to the older three.
Yeah.
But if this is your firstborn and you were doing what everybody else in the neighborhood was doing, or your family, your school, your church, whatever, then no, don't even say to the kids, I messed up. You didn't know what you didn't know. None of us knew what the phone would do to us. You didn't know what the phone would do to you at the beginning of your use for it.
Yeah.
And now look what the Lord has done for you in your conviction to help other people. So no, I didn't realize what would happen.
Yeah.
When I gave you a phone.
That's good.
And we love you too much to allow it to continue.
Yeah, I love it. And I am 100%. First of all, I have had not nearly the experience you have speaking with kids, but I've spoken to them enough to where I know even if your kid becomes an iMad kid and an iSad kid and is just furious at you for the next week or whatever, I promise you deep inside, and they could write this down or they will tell you 30 years from now that they are going to feel more loved and grateful.
Yes.
Like I'm just confident that they're going to look back at their generation and just have this confidence, like as a parent, like they're going to look back and be like, hey, there are a lot of parents that did stick their heads in the sand and were being ostriches about this thing. And you love me enough to do it. And look, I'm a better human. I'm more whole. I'm more full. I have a different identity. I'm more resilient because of that. And so lean into the confidence that kids actually room for this.
Absolutely. I've had kids thank me. I'll be in their church youth group or be a family presentation at a church perhaps, and I'll recommend a digital fast. I'll recommend making some changes. And I've had kids tell me the next time they see me or they'll write me letters, Dr. Kathy, what they often say, Chris, I like myself better without my phone.
Yeah.
I didn't realize who I had become. I like myself better without my phone. I didn't realize who I had become. And we don't know what we don't know. So we need to make sure that we can pass that on. I'll make another quick comment, and that is that I often do recommend 2 days a week without devices. And what I usually say is, if you need it to see with or cook with, you can turn it on. Okay, so you can turn on a light, you can turn on a stove or a microwave or a toaster. So if you need it to cook with, you need it to see with, you can turn it on, leave everything else off. And one family in my own church chose a Wednesday and a Sunday. The kids did, because they're in church, so they're not home that much on a Wednesday and a Sunday anyway. Well, when I did that for the good of the kid, thinking that, the kid would go outside and play a game and, would maybe read a real paper book, and the mom would get to take a nap. Well, it's interesting, the feedback that I've been given when I have a chance to get feedback from people. One young boy came up to me at church. You're the lady, right? You're the lady who taught my parents about turning off all our best stuff. And I said, yes. And I was kind of fearful, and then
is he going to slap me or hug me?
Exactly. And then he said, thank you. Yeah. And then he said, ready, Chris? I got my daddy back. I got my daddy back. Wow. I had made the recommendation thinking that the kids would get off the devices and have a life. What he said to me was, my dad took me in the backyard and taught me how to play catch. Mm. And also, Dr. Kathy, my mom let me help her make brownies, because we were allowed to turn it on because we were cooking with it. So here's a little boy who felt seen by his family. I got my daddy back. I'll never forget that.
I got my daddy back. I turned the tech off for a digital Sabbath once, twice a week. And that transformed the relationship.
Yeah.
All right. So now I got another hairy one for you. You ready for this?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Okay. So we're talking about parents, and all of our conversations to date are assuming parents are mostly aligned, or they mostly have the authority or autonomy to do something. Like, hey, if mom leans in and has this conversation, or if dad leans in and has this conversation, like that they're in support with one another.
Right.
But I'm bringing you all the tricky questions.
I appreciate it.
But one of the super tricky situations I've seen, even with some of my close friends, is dealing with parents that are not aligned. Either they're divorced and one of the parents gets a device and the other one doesn't, and like they're sharing homes, and like that's a very weird, difficult one. Or they're married and just not aligned on this particular thing, and dad has his own media technology structure, addiction, everything like that. And he's going to bring his iPad to the table and sit there and watch the game while they're eating dinner, or they don't eat dinner together, and mom wants to do this and is intentional and careful and everything. So like, this is entering marriage territory. If someone's in that situation, how would you start the conversation? What would you even dive in? Because that's pretty frustrating.
Very frustrating, I think. I'm glad I'm glad you brought it up, even though I'm not sure I have all the answers people are going to want.
It may not be answers, but it's like, hey, here's something that gives some, like, let's start shooting on this.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So first of all, it is common. And I would say if you're married or if you're partnering and you're living together, raising children, one of the most important things you'll do is become unified on any number of things, not just the use of a cell phone, but, bedtime and healthy eating and, our attitude toward homework. You being unified will be so good for your relationship and so good for your children. If you have differences with technology, ask why. Why do you believe that this is best and I believe this is best? Are we going to listen to each other? Can we get counsel from other parents? Often talking to parents whose children are maybe 2 years older than yours can be really profitable, because you'll find out what's happened in that family that you'll either want to replicate or avoid.
2 years is a good window to kind of like predict the future of what could happen here.
Yeah, I think so. So I would certainly just want, to encourage people to be unified if they can. The divorce situation is tricky. I do hear about it a lot. Again, wouldn't it be wonderful if they cared enough about each other and their children to become unified? That would be the ideal. That an ex-husband and ex-wife sit down and say, okay, we said we would love our children well. We said we would co-parent well. We have verbalized that to our children, that they matter most, but it doesn't look like they do. It looks like our opinions matter most. So can we humble ourselves and change? Like, Chris, can we have those kinds of conversations? Can we be the grown-ups in the room and say, our children are worth our sacrifice? And I'm going to let you, quote unquote, win. Why do we have to look at it as competition? Which I think is one of the biggest issues here. I have to win. Why are we still playing that game? And I don't live in that world. I don't pretend to understand the complexities of it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying best practice would be that the children win and get your very best efforts.
And what you're doing is you're taking us out of the equation and really honing in and focusing on the kids. Like, let them be the center of that, and don't let this be the thing that you have your power struggle over. Like,
so go
fight over the house, but let's not fight over this thing.
It's not appropriate. And again, I've talked to many kids who have one policy on the weekends and one policy, Sunday night through Friday night, and some who have every other week. And it's hard for the kids to
Oh, yeah.
to remember that and to be flexible. And then they are discouraged by one parent and encouraged by another. So you're asking the children to choose.
And I've seen the dynamic of where the parent that is more permissive and lets the kid have what they want, they win the hearts of their kids.
Yeah.
Because the kids are fickle and they want this. They want the dopamine. They want this. They want the sugar rush. They want the energy drinks. And so I've seen them choose to favor. And that's a really dark place.
And Chris, you know what happens later when they launch? Which parent will they want to be with? Often it will be the less permissive. It will often be the one that had higher standards that they ultimately gravitate toward, because the older they get, the more they will recognize that it wasn't healthy for them.
They need wisdom in that moment.
They need wisdom. Yeah. And they need true authority. We're designed for authority. And if we don't get it from a mom and a dad, we'll find it from somewhere else. But if we're our own authority, which I teach about in my book, it's very, very dangerous. So yeah, if you're overly permissive right now, you're going to win their heart for the moment.
Yeah.
They're going to think that you love them more, but that's not what's going on here. You need them more. And we shouldn't be using children. We shouldn't be trying to meet our need of popularity or friendship by manipulating our kids. Ideally, we step back from that. It's good for our children and it's good for us if we do that.
Well, I knew you would find the hope in that situation, which you just did, because I have some very close friends who are dealing with this dynamic, and the less permissive one, the one who cares, who's intentional, all our audience listening is intentional people. Yeah. So on the equation, if you got the permissive and the intentional one's going to be listening to the podcast.
I love it.
But that's such a messy situation, but you just gave hope that, hey, 3 years, 5 years, when the kids launched, there's a gravitation back to wisdom. And yes, there's this season that's the natural consequence of the broken unity of divorce. Yeah. But this isn't a long-term permanent thing for our relationship. If I stay the course and I stay steady and I stay strong and I own the responsibility that I can, that there's hope there, is what I'm hearing.
I love the summary. Yeah. And you can only do what you can do, and you're only responsible for yourself. I do think, Chris, that if a child comes over to your home and you're the intentional one that doesn't allow them to use a phone in your home, then make sure you're available to them. Play a board game, do a jigsaw puzzle, go to the park on a Thursday night, go out with friends on a Wednesday night. Make sure that they have something to do with their time. If it's every other weekend, then make sure the weekend is full enough with activities that they're not just angry the whole time that they can't be texting their friends.
Yeah, you go from dopamine rush to nothing at all, boredom. Then that's really dangerous.
Yes,
and the way to fill that is relationally with you, doing meaningful, what would be considered healthy, positive things. That's the alternative, and that's the better long-term diet anyways.
Oh, that's so good. Can you imagine if they served together? Can you imagine if this dad and the two kids on a Saturday morning went to the, nursing home and walked around just to say hi? Can you imagine if the three of them raked leaves for a neighbor who had knee surgery and can't do it? Wow. Service is when we bond. Service, when we get our eyes off of ourselves and we put others first. We get rid of the entitlement lie from the phone. We get rid of the happy lie from the phone, and we discover who we are, and we discover why we are who we are. Now, and what's really interesting, Chris, when I've asked young adults and teenagers, how many of you served and you didn't want to, but you ended up really liking it? So many hands go up. Like, you didn't want to go to the food pantry. You didn't want to go to the nursing home. You didn't want to help a neighbor. But how many of you found out something about yourself that was valuable? So many hands go up. They find their talent. They find their passion. Some have even found a career because they served. And when you serve with a family and you talk as a family unit, and the dad says to the 2.5 kids and the dog, how did that make you feel? And then the kid is like, Dad, how did you feel? And now you share vulnerably and with transparency, and now you have values, and values change the world. So and I don't say that lightly either, but I will say again that if you don't have phones for the kids and they're used to having phones, you have to help them fill their time, because boredom will be their greatest enemy. They will resent you and become bitter in those moments. So get out of the house and do something with them, and don't be on your phone the whole weekend there with you.
Yeah. They're used to a junk food diet. Let's eat good, healthy food. Let's not eat food. We're not gonna fast.
Yes, that's good.
Let's eat something and enjoy it. That's good. I love it. All right,
Thanks.
So we kicked off with hey, here's the dark picture of the world, the confusion going on right now, the depression, just everything, the epidemic currently. We threw out a lot of very practical solutions, just basics, fundamentals, baseline practices, like, hey, kind of teetering on the edge of, you're not really being a responsible parent if you're not doing some of these things. I want to spend a couple minutes unpacking some stretch practices, or just like, hey, pie in the sky ideas. And then we can work towards, I want to know, like, what is that hopeful future? What could be? What is the beautiful ideal, and even a poetic sense of
Oh my goodness.
what family could be in its sweet spot, and just like paint a picture. But let's start with, we have baseline practices. What are stretch practices or reach practices, or things we could aspire to if we're doing the baseline things, which I don't know if a lot of people are. I mean, I know that those challenge me even, so maybe we won't spend too much time on it, but just like some extra things that really could be sweet, really sweet moments where throwing out just a few different ideas of what could be.
Your questions are so good, so interesting. One of the things we haven't mentioned that I'm a fan of would be using technology together. So researching on the state park website, which parks we could drive to in under an hour and a half that we could go to for a fall hike.
Yeah.
So using technology together can be a positive use. It can show the children that you do use tech, you know, you're not against it, but could also teach them, research skills. How do you use Google well, as an example? You can also play games together on a device.
I have totally softened my stance on couch co-op games,
Mario
Kart and stuff like that. I used to be like, no games, never. And I was like, wait a second, I'm got Ebenezer Scrooge vibes. This isn't good. Like, and I realized that, you know what, there's some wonderful memories if you're not binging on this perpetually. But if you come together as a family and, like, I don't even know what the games are now, but split screen conceptually, like, there's some cool moments to be had there. So.
Yeah. What if you sat with the son and her daughter and looked for, a new vegetable recipe for, Easter dinner or whatever? And some kids would love that. Yeah. And they would challenge you to find a new place to find recipes if that's important to you. So again, using it together is healthier than isolated in our rooms.
100%.
And then we still don't use it any more than we have to. We learn how the library works, and we learn where the best parks are with the best pools and the best walking paths. And we find out that the botanical garden has a family pass for the summer, and we choose to do it because spending time together is what matters most to us. That would be the dream, right? The people who are listening who have to use tech for their career. I'm on tech a lot. You're on tech a lot. The gentleman who runs my business, runs my ministry, we're on tech a lot. So we have to use it less recreationally. I think if you use it purposefully for a career that you have to have it out and open for, then I think that automatically means we're on it less relationally or less socially, if that makes sense. We go to ESPN.com on our banking website and a social media site after the kids are in bed, but we honor the time when they're awake. So the timing of it all, which we haven't talked about, I think becomes a valuable thing for us to process as well.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Let's unpack what you think could be like family in its perfect state. In a romantic notion even. And this might be, when I think about this a little bit, I think of like 1920s for some reason.
I wonder.
I mean, because people are using stuff, there's technology that we use regularly. I mean, you mentioned the typewriter, right? There's nothing inherently evil. Actually, there are some inherently evil things built into our tech today, and it may not even be that profound. Like you're talking about sleep, like families that just sleep enough.
Yes.
They eat healthy food. They spend time together at the dinner table. Like their stress levels are like healthy, moderated, like there's confidence, there's rhythms, like unpack that. And I just want to breathe like a breath of fresh air here with you. And give us something to be like, oh, I could see that, or I want that,
I love all the things that you were saying.
Yeah.
That was excellent. Resting, taking a slow pace, a quiet pace.
As a
family togetherness, pledge. My grandmother made homemade pancakes for all 6 of her grandkids every Saturday morning. My richest memories with my brother and my cousins are probably those pancakes Saturday mornings. There wasn't much for us to do, so it was easy for us to say yes to that.
Yeah.
But imagine, like, we were bonded, we were served, and the joy we gave our grandparents. And the mom and dad weren't involved. Mom and dad weren't invited. My aunt and uncle didn't come. It was just the 6 of us kids with grandma and grandpa. It's huge.
The smells, the routine, the weekly cadence,
looking forward to it. Thursday night was bad, but Saturday morning will be good. There's the rhythm of life, the making memories, routines are becoming really, our routines are always important, and they don't have to involve technology. Chris, what if we read a great book together as a family? You're on the couch and the kids are surrounding you, a paper book where the pages turn. The kids discover how that works. I think there's value in that. Good old-fashioned movie watching even. So, but it's together. It's not separated. I'm so concerned about the level of separation in our families caused by busyness, caused by different likes and loves, and caused by tech. What if we came together? I think that's exciting. And I do think technology, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? You know this better than I do. Much could happen that could be good. Much could happen that could be evil. So what if we learned discernment? What if we knew our values, knew what we stood for, knew who we wanted to become, and chose to stay on that path, which would cause us to quickly reject the things that are not for us and not good for us. And we say to ourselves and the people we love, we're not doing that because that is not healthy for us. So do we know, again, who we are, who we want to become, and what we stand for? That would make all the decision-making so much better.
And that is actually what you just described, that discernment. That is the very heart of this podcast. That is the purpose of what we're trying to do, because the truth is the stuff that's built for us right now is so commingled. The good and the evil are merged, and it's just like this tangled, like what, everything. And we are trying to literally, in hours of conversation, chip away at, that's what we're doing right now. Literally, we've sat here for hours chipping away and unpacking what if this is good, what if this is evil, and parsing it out and putting it in a sense in a platter or in a way that we can all digest, because it's complicated, it's convoluted, it's like that's the very heart of what we're trying to do, and actually bring it to families, bring it to parents, bring it to kids, bring it to working professionals, creative professionals, technologists. So anyways, I think we're making progress in the world in that way. And I mean, just a lot of the tools we're creating, a lot of the products we have over the next 2-3 years, it's great clarity. And it's kind of, in a sense, removing the excuses.
I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for all of us because of the work that you're doing.
Well, thanks. But so what I love about the examples of you're diving into beautiful pieces of family is those are attainable. They're simple. They're not complicated. It's not some 28-step process to do this thing. It's like, hey, just cook pancakes Saturday morning and don't do anything.
It doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah. It's like spaghetti's cheap, whatever that looks like. Or just reading a book. That's a book. How long does that last? A long time if you sit and read it. So.
And you know what's interesting, Chris, is that kids may not ask for that because they don't know what they're missing. But the adults who are listening, they know. Because they were read to when they were kids. And if you start to read a chapter book to kids and you only read one chapter a night, they're going to be waiting for the next night.
Oh, sure. They totally. We do that. We practice that.
Good.
And I know my wife, she reflects back on her childhood, and one of her favorite memories was breakfast. As they're eating breakfast every day, her mom read a chapter book, one chapter. So yeah, you're onto something in what resonates with memories. So
cool.
Awesome. Any other thoughts on this? Just beautiful, what family could be?
I think we must do it, and I think we can do it.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Kathy, thank you so much. This is a wonderful conversation. There is a lot to unpack. I have personal notes for myself that are like some life-changing things, and my hope is that everyone listening has something very meaningful to take away with. So thank you for shining some light, sharing your wisdom, your expertise, your years of experience, and giving us a snapshot of where we're at today. It's been a wonderful conversation.
You're welcome, Chris. Honored to be here.